Splatoon's entire conception centers around a gimmick that sets it apart from every other third-person shooter game out there. Having gameplay revolve around the concept of map control allows a lot of creative outlets to flourish. Obviously, one of the aspects most impacted are the weapons. Sure, you have your standard shooters and snipers, but then you have stuff like sloshers that can hit over walls, and blasters that can hit around corners. But what happens when a weapon gimmick becomes really exploitable? What makes a gimmick well designed and balanced, and what makes it broken and annoying? The Nozzlenose class's gimmick is very interesting because its gimmick isn't derived from gameplay mechanics like most of the others, but instead off of the shooter class almost like a counter. This is a moderate to slow burst fire shooter going against fast rapid fire shooters, and it's able to hold its own. Having a trade-off of fire rate for kill potential and range really works, because it allows the gimmick to work and succeed without making it overpowered. One of the best examples of a weapon gimmick in my opinion are most dualies. Having a class that's identical to shooters but decreasing its damage in exchange for enhanced mobility and fire rate is really cool, and having the drawback of being stuck in a vulnerable position after a roll balances out the gimmick. The dualies gimmick is really innovative and really well designed. Unfortunately, this is also where we find our first bad gimmick. Dually Squelchers, one of the most powerful weapons in the game, has one of the most busted gimmicks, that being, it's not really a dually. Dually Squelchers are the only dually weapon that do not have a drawback of being stuck in a vulnerable turret mode after performing a roll. Now, although that might not seem like a big deal at first glance, it's downright broken. The turret mode was implemented so that the dually class wouldn't be able to exploit the positioning and movement options the rolls give them. But since dually Squelchers don't have that restriction, they're able to perform as many consecutive rolls as they please, with their only worry being about how much ink is left in their tank. Another weapon whose gimmicks may seem minuscule at first but are obscenely busted is the Nautilus. Now, the Nautilus has three gimmicks. The first is its ability to charge in the middle of firing, allowing it to effectively have infinite amount of charge, or at least for as long as there is ink in its tank. The second is that this weapon has no jump shot randomization. The shot spread is always the same whether it is shooting on the ground or while jumping, and it is not by any means a wide hitbox, much smaller than I think it should be. And if you're asking why it has this, it's because the developers wanted something to compensate for all its jumping due to its third gimmick, the ability to hold its charge while swimming through the ink. This allows the weapon to pop up around corners and ledges or more easily flank from behind and gun the enemy down, providing a lot more mobility and movement options compared to the rest of the Splatling class. One of these gimmicks is enough to make a Splatling incredibly powerful. Just look at the ballpoint. But three on the same weapon? Who at Nintendo thought this would be a fair and balanced weapon? And finally, there's one last gimmick I need to talk about, the reason why I made this video in the first place. The most annoying weapon gimmick in the game, in my opinion, brushes. Now, both Octo Brushes and Ink Brushes gimmicks are pretty straightforward. Hold the ZR button and you can zoom anywhere. Its gimmick takes advantage of mobility and positioning like how dualies roll do, but cranks it up to 11. Now, this gimmick isn't the best, it's not broken, it's honestly a fun concept. But holy shit is it so annoying! The brush class as a whole are easily on my top 5 most hated weapons in the game. The gimmick gives brush a lot of free run speed and allows them to flee any battle pretty easily. And if you're playing something that has a slow fire rate or takes a lot of accuracy, good luck hitting these bastards. And why do they have any amount of range? Octobrush has nearly the same amount of range as Sploosh. Like, hello? Are you going to tell me that a stick has near the same range as a gun? And these weapons require like no aim, and the hitbox is huge. These things can run up to you and end you because most brush players have trained their index fingers to go a million miles an hour. And don't even get me started on clamblets. Don't get me wrong, the brush class is honestly a pretty weak class. It's not going to break the meta or be unstoppable. But just the way that people play them, it is far and away the most annoying weapon with a gimmick in the game. Splatoon is a game of gimmicks, and that's what makes it stand out and so much fun to play. I want more unique weapon gimmicks in the game because they make the game that much more fun and interesting. But these gimmicks shouldn't be game breaking. They should have fair trade-offs in order to keep everything balanced and allow a multitude of weapons to thrive. With the announcement of the Splatbow, I'm really optimistic for Splatoon 3 to add more interesting weapon gimmicks, and I can't wait to see how the meta will develop around them. Are there any gimmicks that you think are broken in Splatoon 2? What gimmicks would you like to see in Splatoon 3? There are limitless possibilities as to what the game devs over at Nintendo can think of, and that really excites me. Hopefully we get more info about Splatoon 3 during E3, and if we do, you can be sure I'll be here to overanalyze the crap out of it. See you then.